This changes everything for the Toronto Maple Leafs, as this was a huge day as Auston Matthews has been officially named the captain and John Tavares is now the assistant captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And they had a press conference today where John Tavares revealed the truth behind him passing his captaincy over to Auston Matthews. And what he had to say might shock you. So stay tuned for all that on this episode. But before we do, if you're a part of the percentage that aren't subscribed, make sure to hit that button. We produce daily Leafs videos. Shout out to everybody who tuned into our stream today. We're going to be doing those every Wednesday night. So tune in if you want to watch some live Leafs news. But Darius, we have a lot to get into today, and what a day for Leafs land. It's the middle of August. Usually not a lot of news is happening across the NHL, but the Leafs obviously dropped a bit of a heater press conference. And first of all, congratulations to everybody involved. The press conference was actually very professionally done, and I like the way that everything was done with that. But John Tavares had a bunch of comments. Auston Matthews had a bunch of comments. And there's going to be more videos because there was also some other stuff that you guys may have missed that was kind of in between the lines there. But let's just focus on Auston Matthews for today and John Tavares as well. But Darius, let's dive into it. So it started with, at the press conference, we knew some big names were going to be there. And those names included Mitch Marner, Morgan Riley, Doug Gilmour, Wendell Clark, Keith Pelly, Larry Tannenbaum, and Craig Berube. So some high-level executives from the MLSE. Of course, some current Leafs players and our new head coach, Craig Berube, and some Leafs alumni as well in Clark and Gilmour. But what are your thoughts on just the overall press conference? Matthews' parents were there. Tavares was there. John Tavares' kids was wearing Auston Matthews' uniform. We have a bunch of quotes to go over, which we'll go over in a minute. But I just want to get your thoughts and leave it in the comments as well of all the different things that happened today. What was one of the better ones I've seen in a while. That is a captaincy press conference, if that's what you want to call it.
Yeah, the press conference, the event, whatever you want to call it, was really well done. It was really classy. All the players involved, everything was super classy. I loved it. It was a great event. It was at the Real Sports Bar. So obviously you had a lot of media in attendance, family members, right? Matthews' family members were in attendance. You had John Tavares' kids wearing Auston Matthews jerseys, right? Like, it was just a feel-good moment and a moment to celebrate for the Leafs, handing the captaincy off to the next generation, to Auston Matthews. So that was really fun to see. And a lot of the quotes that came out too from Matthews and Tavares, I was a big fan of, and I loved the transparency from Brad Treliving as well. So I loved everyone's comments today. Today was not the day to kind of, hate on anything, right? This is a moment of celebration to usher in the new era of Auston Matthews being the captain. Obviously, you can read between the lines, which we're about to, on a bunch of stuff and deep dive into that. But the event as a whole was fantastic. And I'm glad to see Auston Matthews finally get the captaincy, because I think we all knew it was leading to this. It was just a matter of time. So now we are finally here. We've arrived here, and it's time to get going.
Yeah, and a lot of things are a bit of change for the Leafs, not just because of the press conference, but just the way that Leafs culture is seemingly very different. But let's dive into the first quote here. And this one's from John Tavares. He said, "When I decided to come to Toronto at the start, it was all about the great opportunity to win," which was obviously way back now. It was years ago, back in 2018. "My feelings and belief in that hasn't changed, but I do recognize the development of our young core today, specifically Auston Matthews. I feel stronger than ever in my ability to compete." So the first bit here, he's talking about his ability to compete, why he may have passed his captaincy over and been willing to do that. And it seems like, Darius, like you've been saying all along, you've been a John Tavares truther. He feels really good with his body. He feels like this is a good time for him. He is, of course, the assistant captain. He was given that. That's the only one we know about. We don't know about the other assistant captains yet. They haven't been revealed, but they said that Brad Treliving said they'll be coming soon. What are your thoughts on this? He seems ready to go, and it's going to be interesting because hopefully he's going to be a Leaf for the rest of his career, and that's where things are pointing, but we'll save that for a new video.
Yeah, a lot of that we'll save for another video on the John Tavares side. But in terms of John Tavares, I loved what he said today in passing the torch to Auston Matthews. And like you said on the channel, I've been the John Tavares truther, I guess, if that's the way you want to put it, that I still think he's a very valuable player. And I think this might be a good thing for John Tavares now moving forward, because he's going to have less pressure on his shoulders per se, not being the captain, right? Not that I think much will change for Auston Matthews either, because he's the face of the franchise, but he's going to have a little less pressure, and he can kind of move into his new role when he eventually, I think, gets that extension to stay a Maple Leaf, probably till he retires, and the contract will look very different. So loved all the comments from John Tavares, and it seemed very genuine, right? When he was passing the torch and they took a picture with the jersey, it looks like there's no ill will there, which is great, because sometimes obviously egos can get in the way, but this looked genuine. It looks like he was ready to pass the torch, and I think he knew when he was named captain in 2018 that eventually, whether he was here or not, like after his contract expired, Matthews would end up being the captain, because that's just, we knew it was coming. So loved it from John Tavares, loved the comments, and Auston Matthews had some great comments as well.
And obviously, if they would have won through the past half decade, they would have obviously been in a different spot. With the captaincy, maybe he would have kept it. And maybe this should have happened back in 2018, like you mentioned, when there were talks of that happening. So a lot of other things that were going into this, but the biggest one here is that he was very willing to give it away. He was kind of the guy who seemed to want to do it in a way. Like, he was the one who initiated perhaps the beginning of the new era for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And it makes sense at a time where they have a brand new coach as well. They have a lot of different things coming into the pipeline. So very exciting for John Tavares. But let's move on now to some other comments as well. So I remember after he let me know, I told him I was shaking. I had chills. For him to call me and let me know he wanted to pass on the captaincy was emotional. A huge honor. Obviously, Auston Matthews. This is Auston Matthews on John Tavares. Like, there just seems to be a ton of mutual respect here for the team, ton of mutual respect for each other. And you saw when they were up there and John Tavares was shaking his hand, they were doing the pictures. There seemed to just be very good vibes around the team. And again, this is a very interesting situation for Craig Berube to come into because he's obviously in these pictures. He's around all this media. And this is the first time he's ever done that with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So they picked an interesting time, and it seems like everything's kind of lining up. They really wanted to make a big change. I'm sure they knew heading into the offseason that Auston Matthews was going to be the captain. And I'm sure they knew now that because of that, they wanted to get a new coach in Craig Berube as well. So they must have, I still have a feeling, not that it matters as much now, that they really had Craig Berube as their coach all along here.
Yeah, perhaps, right? It sounds like, or it's looking like now that they knew that they were going to make some changes and probably do them all at the same time instead of gradually over the next couple of years, which makes sense, right? And for Auston Matthews with that quote, I love that as well. And I love the touch that John Tavares said during the press conference that Brad Treliving and him had a conversation after the season ended. It sounded like John Tavares knew that this is the way the team needed to go and he was ready to pass the captaincy off. And then John Tavares called Auston Matthews himself and let him know. And I think that's just amazing. Like, so much mutual respect between the two. I think it shows you where John Tavares's priorities are as well. He wants to just win a Stanley Cup. He doesn't care if he's the captain. I don't think he came to the Leafs to be the captain anyway. I think he just wants to win with his hometown team. So I think that's great. And I don't think John Tavares's role is going to change. It's just a letter swap, but it's just, pushing Matthews to the forefront of the franchise as the captain where he should be, because at the end of the day, it is his team. It's been his team for a long time. So that's great. And obviously a huge honor for Matthews. He looked a bit nervous this morning. Honestly, I think John Tavares was more calm, and he should be anyway. He's passing the torch, right? Less pressure on him, but Matthews looked nervous. I'm sure that's going to calm down as the season goes and as time goes on, because he doesn't really have to change much. He's being named the captain because of who he is, right? So love that for Auston Matthews. Love the quotes, right? And it makes it, if you're a Leafs fan, today was pretty special, the way they were talking about how, they're honoring the franchise in a way. Like, it's such an honor to be named the captain. So that's this type of stuff that I want to hear from the Leafs captain, from their players, the guys who are leading the way. So loved every moment this morning.
Yep, and he obviously said he wanted to be a Leaf for life, which is good. And again, a lot of good things came from this today. And I'm curious to see what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. What were your thoughts on the whole press conference? And if you missed it, obviously let us know now after we read you out some of the quotes. I think ultimately, Darius, it's a good day for the Leafs. It's a good day for everybody involved. And it went about as smooth as it could have. But there were some things after the fact that were very interesting as well, which we'll discuss in future video. But let us know what your thoughts are on this. And are you excited for the season coming up? Because this kind of, like you mentioned off camera, Darius, kind of got me fired up for October when it starts. Let me know in the comments. We'll see you soon.